Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is Tolu Sarah Johnson, and this is the book Reframe Heaven. This is chapter number 19. I hope you're enjoying the book so far.
Thank you. And that is the start of part 5, which is going to talk about the life and culture in heaven. This is where heaven becomes alive. So, chapter 19, this is where you see heaven is fully alive. Not still, not passive, but active, expressive, and dynamic. Wow. When I thought of heaven in the past, I used to think heaven must be a quiet place. I imagine heaven to be as still, peaceful, but motionless, beautiful, but uneventful. A place where nothing really happens, just endless stillness or probably distant worship to God. But it's so beautiful to know that heaven is a living society. It's not just an atmosphere, but it's a world on its own. Heaven is not empty space. It's not passive existence. It's not one-dimensional worship. It is a thriving society, even though I don't know what it looks like. But all of these things I've heard from the saints and from Papa, from Jesus, from Holy Spirit, has helped me to form a good understanding of what heaven might look like. And I know that it's a thriving society. You can't tell me any other thing, and I'm not going to accept it because I know it's full of activities, full of culture, it's full of interaction. A world that functions not randomly but intentionally. And it feels nothing like the earth. People might be idle here on earth. People might be idle in heaven as well, because of course there's still a level of free will. But you know that those that want to be engaged will be engaged, not in pressure, but in purpose. And that's what I love about heaven. Like doing what you actually want to do, not doing things on earth because you've got to feed your family, things that doesn't bring you joy. You do what aligns with you. Matthew used to say he wants to be a taxi driver in heaven. I'm sure whenever he wants to go and do a taxi job, he will be able to pick a car and just say, oh, I'm going to surprise someone in heaven today. Pick that person up and they'll see that it is Matthew driving the taxi. If he wants to do it, there's room for him to be that person. Dreams not fulfilled on earth. We've spoken to saying that they've got something in mind before, but when they got to heaven, they were able to live that dream because on that they couldn't. Maybe like acting. Matthew once wanted to write a film, maybe so he might get to heaven and do that. Music, medicine, creativity. Now find expression. Don't forget there's no hospital in heaven. So don't think I mean medicine like nobody falls sick in that way. But I guess there are a lot of people that might be still healing from the trauma that they experience on that. So there's growth within it. There's training, there's apprenticeship, there's learning. So it's so good to know that excellence is celebrated in heaven as well. That's one thing that I was really, really surprised about. Because when I look at competitions here on Earth, I used to think that all this trying to win an award is such a distraction. But God knows that that needs to exist, because if that doesn't exist, people might be complacent. So there is competition in heaven. People, you are expected to compete joyfully, not being envious of the other person, because this is where the culture needs to become visible. The culture of peace, joy, love, vibrant comes. These are the type of things you're expected to be experiencing in heaven. And there are expressions of excellence like chefs creating music, musicians sharing, creators presenting, not for ego at all, not for ego, is for because sometimes Papa himself participates in these competitions. I was so surprised the day he told me that too. Sometimes I enter the competition myself, I bake a cake. Seriously, Papa? You know how to cook? I was so surprised that he can cook. And say sometimes I come second. And I'm so happy by the fact that he came second as well. Like, there's no ego there. It's not saying because I'm God, I should always come first. No, sometimes as children, they are ahead of him. And that's the point. A successful father should have children that are way, way more excellent than him. The day that God told me that, Tolu, whatever, if I tell you that King Solomon knows more than me, I was like, no, Papa, it can't be true, it can't be true. And then Papa said, Tolu, will you expect your children to know more than you or not? I said, of course. So why is it different for me? My God. And then I started thinking differently. Because there's this hierarchy when we think of God. There's this God I would think is high up there that no one can reach. And God is saying, no, I am the God that you can reach. I'm the God you can come closer to. I am the God that you can even outpace. That is really, really beautiful. And of course, mature souls participate in different things. There are discussions, alignment, there's collaboration going on, no control, but participation. Entertainment is real, but elevated. This is where you begin to see joy is not removed in heaven. It is expanded. There are gatherings, there are music, there are shared experiences, there are moments lived together, not alone. And something else that surprised me, that recreation exists in heaven because joy matters. So people can still go out there, go for hiking, like swim, surf, all of these things. And you can even do that with God. You can do that with Jesus. You can do that with the Holy Spirit. I'm thinking, wow, this heaven is different. That was a long, long time ago, maybe like 3 months, or maybe after after we started speaking to my husband, and my husband said, oh, we're going away on holiday. I'm thinking, holiday. So this, my understanding of heaven is maturing as we go. But I'm coming to see heaven as a heart, like the way art operates, but so much, much better. So heaven is a living university. There is where growth will continue. And Papa's confirmed that as well today. Heaven itself will continue to mature, and the people in there will continue to evolve, will continue to grow. So you can learn, you can be guided, you can continue to deepen your knowledge, just like Prince Philip said, currently studying, is it theology, something like that, in maybe in university. But that's what you've got time to do whatever you want to do. There's no rush. No one is rushing. You could just go at your own pace because growth is ongoing. Misunderstandings are addressed gently. Any theology that is not right can be addressed, just like Papa was speaking to us today about our theologies that has been addressed, and through this we've grown. So people in heaven, they don't know everything. They're still growing as well. There's still gaps in their knowledge. And these conversations that's been going on in heaven, so much more conversations going on that we are not aware of because we're not living in heaven now. But there's so many other conversations that goes on that is built on what is happening here. And what that is helping people to continue to grow. So you are not alone. The connections, we could build connections with people that in a way you don't feel the loneliness like you will feel on that, because you can be around like-minded people. So intimacy with God is personal. That's what I've come to know. It's personal. Your level of intimacy will be based on the level of what am I going to say? The level of how much you're willing to give yourself to Him, to give yourself to God, to give your time to Him. So movement is fluid. You're not restricted. There's freedom in heaven, and you could be who you want to be. You will not be forced to be something else that you don't want to be. So creativity will continue to expand, and what is imagined can become experience. And this is where you understand heaven is not fixed, it is growing, it is unfolding, it is deepening. And the atmosphere of heaven is alive, and activity is alive but without stress, movement but without chaos. expression, but without pressure. So everything flows from alignment to joy and purpose. So as I close this chapter, or as I'm going to hand over back to Matthew, I just want you to know that heaven is active, it is creative, it is relational, and it is alive. God bless.
I just want to start this with maybe you don't know this, but heaven is totally free. Heaven comes with your own house, and when you go into your house, it's got the design of furniture that you like. It's got the modeling of a house that you like. I like exposed beams, exposed wooden beams and wooden furniture in a house, and that's what my house had. When you don't have to pay a mortgage, when you don't have to have bills, when you don't have a $50 a month internet bill and electricity bills and gas bills and food bills and travel bills and car repayments. When there's no bills and there's no demand on you for money, and in fact there is no money, and you can go shopping and buy a new phone or buy new clothes or buy the latest fashion or go on rides in entertainment areas or go out to the movies, and everything's free. You can just enjoy your lifestyle in heaven and there's no cost. That takes away the need to actually go to work to pay for a living. And if that happened to you, you could live and eat and be clothed and have a comfortable living. What would you choose to do with your life? What would you choose? Would you choose to do something that you never got the opportunity on earth? Perhaps on earth you wanted to become a florist, but you always had a different job, a job in an office, a job as a secretary, a job that brought in a higher income, but you could never risk becoming an apprentice florist and going on low wages for a while. You could never get a job as a florist, but perhaps in heaven you can learn and train and work with a florist and train to become a florist and start your own florist shop. They need flowers in heaven. What sort of heaven would heaven be without flowers? So they need flowers in heaven. They need chefs. They need cooks. They need baristas to make coffee. They need people to pick people up in taxis. They need people to manufacture cars. They've got a need for all sorts of people. When Princess Diana got to heaven, she trained to become a fashion designer. Because you can imagine Princess Diana in her life as a princess, and before she was a princess, she wore some of the world's most glamorous fashion. Fashion designers sought her out and sent her free dresses and free clothes so she could be captured on camera in their clothes. And she'd mention what the clothes, she didn't have to mention whose clothes she was in because people who know fashion knew what clothes she was in. Then she worked really well as a fashion designer. And then because she'd proven herself in other ways in heaven, she got promoted and given the ability to become a school teacher. And she went to school children and taught them English, and she became an English teacher in heaven. So probably 6 or 7 year olds, she was teaching English, teaching how to sing. She still continued her fashion business. She still did that part time, and she became a teacher. And hopefully later on in a latter chapter, in a few chapters from now, I'll give you a continuation of how she continued. But the theme of this chapter is heaven is not passive, it's not still. You can start in heaven and train to be a chef, and then be a chef, and then be an assistant chef, then be the head chef, then you can manage a restaurant, then you can own a franchise of restaurants, then you can go on and become a teacher in a training school, then you can become the head of a chef training school. There's progression. Everything in heaven, there's no dead end jobs in heaven. If
Yeah.
a job become a dead end job in heaven, then you'd have to decide something else you'd like to do with your time that doesn't give you the opinion of dead end jobs. There's some people who work as a barista that work in as a barista for 20 years because they love meeting people, they love serving coffee. They love the interactions with strangers. They love the relationships they build. They don't just do it while they're going through college. They do it for a career, for the rest of their life. They may go on and own the cafe and own a series of franchises of cafe, but they manage their cafe from the barista station. So there's all sorts of occupations. Michael Jackson went to heaven and first started playing music, but then he got trusted in heaven. He came into a position of trust and he became a music teacher in the schools and teaching children instruments and teaching children how to write and compose music. So there's always promotion in heaven.
Wow. Thank you, Matthew. That was quite extensive. So, they saint that we actually let Papa speak to this one. Papa, have you got something to say?
Okay, so this is God. Do you know, it really makes me happy to speak into this book and have something to say. It really makes me sad that people haven't got a good understanding of heaven. There's a teacher called Kerr that teaches on heaven, but there's not a lot of good teaching on heaven. I'm really glad for the readers who have bought this book and are working their way through this book and finding out things in heaven. Matthew's been interviewing saints in heaven hundreds of times, and he's learned this from occupants of heaven. He's learned tidbits from this person, that person. I suppose if you had a interest in philosophy and you had a whole lot of you had 100 philosophy teachers that taught philosophy and they were your friends, you'd learn a lot about philosophy from those people because they'd all have their favorite philosophers. Some of them have probably written their own books of philosophy themselves and they'd be experts. Well, the people in heaven are experts about heaven because they're just talking about where they live and what they do. So I'm especially happy to be included in this book and to speak to you. I'm just a normal person. I'm just like a normal person. You get into error when you start thinking that I'm different to any earthly father. I care about kids. I currently have a lot of depression, and that's because so many people are suffering on earth. Tolu was concerned that I was depressed and she wanted me to stop being depressed. And I told her I'll continue to be depressed until the last person on earth stops crying. But heaven is a place where you should be able to enjoy yourself and grow and learn and experience yourself. Some of you have never discovered yourself. Some of you don't even know who you are. Some of you don't even know what your giftings are and what your abilities are. And if you don't get the opportunity to fully express yourself on earth and totally become who you are and be free and really explore different avenues and giftings and abilities that you have, you'll get that opportunity in heaven.
Wow, thank you, Papa. I love that. So, to close, heaven is not still, it is a living, thriving reality full of purpose, expression, and connection. A place where you create, you grow, you engage, not as pressure, but as flow. And when you begin to see that, heaven stops feeling distant and start feeling like a world you were always created to live in. God bless.
God bless you.